Lie. Your Sophia isn't traveling. She's trapped. Luro, the parrot's sharp hoarse cry, echoed through the marble mansion, freezing the blood in Arthur's veins. He felt a cold sweat trickle down his spine as his wife, Veronica's, wide eyes fixed on the bird with murderous rage. Luro, trembling, repeated the words that pierced Arthur's soul, shattering the story of his daughter's trip. And the millionaire knew that to save Sophia, he would have to delve into a truth so dark it could destroy everything he knew. Arthur's heart pounded erratically. Veronica, her face contorted by a murderous fury, hissed, "Luro, shut up! What nonsense is this?" The parrot, huddled on its perch, merely shook its head, repeating in a lament, "Trapped. Sophia trapped." Those words pierced Arthur's soul, shattering the story of his daughter's trip. A chill ran through Arthur. He loved Sophia. The idea of anything bad happening was unbearable. Veronica had insisted on the trip, but the lack of phone calls and direct contact had already been bothering him. Now, Luro's words, however absurd, resonated with a disturbing truth in his chest. Noticing the doubt in Arthur's gaze, Veronica forced a smile. "Darling, don't listen to that bird. He's just repeating something he heard. Sophia is perfectly fine, enjoying her trip. You know how adventurous she is." She approached, touching his arm with a delicacy that seemed forced. "Don't worry, my love, our daughter is safe." But Arthur couldn't shake the image of Sophia. The last time he had seen her, she seemed sad. Veronica had severely reprimanded the girl when she expressed not wanting to go. Arthur had attributed it to a childish tantrum. Now, every detail seemed like an omen, a piece of a dark puzzle. Luro, as if reading his thoughts, chirped again, this time with more urgency. "It's not a trip. It's not a trip. Basement. Dark. Sophia!" An electric shock ran through Arthur. Basement. The mansion had several, most of them forgotten and locked. Luro's mention of basement and dark struck his paternal intuition. He looked at Veronica, who now seemed pale, her lips tight. Her mask of tranquility was cracking, revealing nervousness. "What does he mean by basement, Veronica?" Arthur asked, his voice low and controlled, but with an intensity that made her step back. He watched her every move. Arthur's heart was in pieces, torn between loyalty to his wife and love for his daughter. He needed the truth, no matter the cost. Veronica tried to laugh, a dry sound. "Arthur, please! The parrot is going crazy! Basement! What a ridiculous idea! Sophia is afraid of the dark!" She tried to avert her gaze, but Arthur's eyes held her. A tremor in her hands did not go unnoticed. He must have heard it from some movie. There's nothing wrong. But Arthur was not convinced. Luro's insistence, Veronica's reactions, Sophia's silence. It all added up to a dissonant melody in his soul. He moved away from Veronica, his mind formulating a plan. He couldn't confront her, not yet. He needed proof. He needed to find Sophia. The forgotten basement was the focal point of his desperate search. His life and his daughter's depended on the courage to uncover the hidden truth. The promise to protect Sophia echoed. He would do anything for her. Arthur moved away from Veronica, his mind in turmoil. The mansion, once a sanctuary, now seemed a labyrinth of secrets. He needed to act cautiously, for Veronica, cunning and dangerous, would be watching him. His eyes, once full of love, now saw her with distrust and icy fear. The paternal love in his heart burned strong. Sophia needed him. Veronica felt a shiver. Arthur's unusual calm was more alarming than anger. She watched him go to the office, feigning urgency. A forced smile adorned her lips, but her heart pounded erratically. Luro had planted a dangerous seed. She needed to maintain the charade, but every glance from Arthur cracked her lies. In the office, Arthur closed the door softly. He didn't sit. He walked to the window. If Sophia was there, imprisoned, Veronica's cruelty was monstrous. Basement is dark. Sophia! Luro's words echoed, demanding action. The mansion had underground storage areas, some forgotten for decades. He devised a plan. He would act as if nothing had happened so as not to alert Veronica. Under the pretext of inspecting the property, he would begin his search. The weight of doubt and betrayal crushed his chest. How could he have been so blind? Veronica's coldness, her disguised jealousy, the signs. The image of Sophia, pale and frightened, was a torment. Luro, from his perch, watched Veronica with intelligent eyes. He sensed the tension, the smell of fear and lies. Sophia, basement. Not a trip, he murmured softly. His words, like fine needles, pierced Veronica's facade. She glared at him, a silent warning. But the Parrot, guardian of the truth, was not intimidated. Arthur, after minutes in the office, emerged with a serious but controlled expression. "Veronica, I need to check the plumbing in the West Wing," he said, his voice firm. It was a plausible excuse. Veronica nodded, relieved, but her eyes followed him with vigilance. She knew Arthur was a man of details. Any slip-up would be fatal. He walked to the West Wing, his heart beating like a war drum. Every door, corridor, and staircase seemed to hide a secret. The mansion, once a symbol of success, was now the stage for a dark drama. He needed to find the basement, her basement, where the truth was imprisoned. The promise to protect Sophia echoed stronger than ever. He would do anything to bring her back. Arthur arrived at the West Wing, an old part of the mansion, rarely used. Narrow corridors, dim lighting, air heavy with dust. He passed solid wooden doors, some with rusted locks. His instinct guided him to the depths. He knew Veronica had planned everything with cruelty. But the image of Sophia, his sweet daughter, was the flame that propelled him. He took a deep breath, preparing himself. The search had only just begun, and Arthur was ready to uncover every dark corner of the mansion in pursuit of the truth. Arthur advanced through the dusty corridors of the West Wing, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. The air was dense, laden with the smell of old wood and mold, a stark contrast to the impeccable luxury of the rest of the mansion. His fingers brushed against the cold walls, searching for any clue, any anomaly. The faint light filtering through the dusty windows created dancing shadows, transforming common objects into menacing figures. Arthur's heart pounded frantically, driven by the urgency of finding his daughter and the pain of betrayal. He passed several doors, some opening to empty storage rooms, others locked with old padlocks. None of them matched the mental image Luro had painted. Basement. Dark. Sophia. The word basement implied something subterranean, hidden. Arthur descended a narrow, steep staircase that led to a lower level where the darkness was almost total, dissipated only by a solitary lamp hanging from the ceiling, flickering intermittently. There the cold was more intense and the feeling of isolation overwhelming. On that floor, there was a series of small rooms used for storing wines and old objects. Arthur opened each door, peering inside, but none of them seemed like the right place. His mind was in a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. With each empty door, a pang of despair hit him. But the image of Sophia's frightened face prevented him from giving up. He refused to believe in Veronica's cruelty, but Luro's words were undeniable. The guilt of not having noticed weighed heavily on him. While Arthur explored, Veronica in the living room tried to maintain her composure. Her restless eyes darted towards the West Wing. Arthur's calm disturbed her. He wasn't a man to personally inspect plumbing. Something was wrong. She picked up the phone, feigning a call, but her ears were alert to any sound. Luro on his perch watched her with disturbing intelligence. Lie. Trapped, he whispered, so low that only she could hear. Veronica glared at him with a look that promised revenge, but the bird merely ruffled its feathers, impassive. Arthur, in turn, felt an unusual cold breeze coming from a side corridor he hadn't noticed before. It was narrower and seemed to lead to a dead end. As he approached, he realized that the wall at the end of the corridor was different, made of older stone and with an almost imperceptible seam. His fingers traced the rough surface, feeling a crack. There was a door there, camouflaged, almost part of the wall's structure itself. A shiver ran down his spine. It was a door with no visible handle, no apparent hinges, just a small crack that suggested a hidden mechanism. Basement, dark. Sophia! Luro's words echoed with full force. This was the place. His intuition screamed. He felt terror and hope. Sophia was there, he knew. Adrenaline pumped, his determination unwavering. He needed to open that door. The truth lay behind it, and he was ready to face it, no matter the cost. The promise to protect her was his greatest strength. He took a deep breath, preparing himself. Arthur's fingers trembled as they fumbled with the crack in the stone wall. The rough, cold texture seemed to mock his urgency. The hidden mechanism did not reveal itself easily. He pushed, pulled, tried to slide the stone, but nothing. Frustration threatened to engulf him, but the image of Sophia, trapped and frightened, was a shield against despair. His eyes scanned the surface, searching for any irregularity, a pressure point. The promise to protect her echoed, transforming every fiber of his being into determination. Suddenly, his fingers found a small, almost imperceptible indentation beneath one of the protruding stones. It looked like a tiny lever, masterfully camouflaged. With a sigh of hope, Arthur pressed it. A soft click, almost inaudible, resonated in the silence. The stone wall, once solid and impenetrable, began to move slowly, revealing a dark crevice. The smell of dampness and stagnant air invaded his nostrils, confirming his worst suspicions. While Arthur struggled with the door, Veronica in the living room couldn't calm down. Her mind seethed with the image of Arthur in the West Wing. He wasn't one to inspect plumbing, her eyes fixed on Luro, who watched her with an almost human intelligence. Basement, dark, Sophia. The parrot whispered again, this time with a subtle tone of triumph. Veronica felt a chill. That bird knew too much. Panic began to take hold. Arthur pushed the door harder. With a prolonged, agonizing creak, it opened just enough for him to peek inside. The darkness within was almost absolute, dense and oppressive, like an abyss. He reached out, fumbling along the inner wall, searching for a switch. His fingers found a hanging cord, and as he pulled it, a weak, dusty lamp flickered on, revealing a small room. It was an improvised basement, cramped and damp. The walls were of rough stone, the floor of packed earth. There were no windows, only precarious ventilation. The air was heavy, with a metallic and moldy smell that tightened Arthur's chest. In the corner, on a thin, old mattress covered by a frayed blanket, was a small, huddled figure. Arthur's heart stopped. It was Sophia. Pale, with tangled hair and wide eyes, she sat, hugging her knees, trembling. Her eyes, once full of sparkle and joy, now carried a deep sadness and a fear that cut Arthur's soul. He felt a wave of fury and despair. Veronica had truly done this. His wife's cruelty was unimaginable. Arthur took a hesitant step into the basement, his gaze fixed on his daughter. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. The girl slowly raised her head, her eyes meeting his. For an instant, there was recognition, a spark of hope on her frightened face. She said nothing, just extended a trembling little hand towards him, as if fearing he was a mirage. The sight of his daughter in that state broke Arthur's heart. He knelt, extending his arms, ready to rescue his little one from the nightmare. Arthur dropped to the cold floor, his arms enveloping Sophia with desperate tenderness. His daughter's tiny body, once vibrant, seemed fragile. She let out a moan of pain and relief, clinging tightly to her father. Hot tears streamed down Arthur's face. He held her close to his chest, smelling the mold and sadness, but also the familiar sweet scent of his daughter. "Daddy," Sophia whispered, her voice hoarse and barely audible. The word broke Arthur. He kissed her hair. "My little one, my love. Daddy's here. You're safe now." Guilt gnawed at him. How could he have allowed this? How had he not noticed her suffering? Sophia cried convulsively, muffled sobs against her father's shoulder. Accumulated fear, loneliness, and relief made her tremble. Arthur cradled her, murmuring promises that everything would be all right. He felt her body relax, a sign of trust. In the living room, Veronica's facade crumbled. Arthur's time in the West Wing was excessive. Icy dread settled in. She walked briskly. Luro, from his perch, watched her. "Basement. Sophia. Not a trip." He repeated, clearer, almost a warning. Veronica stopped abruptly, her face contorted in hatred. "Shut up, you filthy bird," she hissed. Her voice was venomous, but the parrot was not intimidated. It tilted its head. Veronica's heart pounded erratically. She knew, Arthur knew, the plan was unraveling. In the basement, Arthur composed himself. Priority, Sophia. He held her firmly, standing up. "Let's get out of here, my love," he said, his voice firm, full of anger. He wrapped her in the frayed blanket, protecting her. As he left the room, he looked back. Revulsion and pain hit him. Veronica would pay for every one of Sophia's tears, for every moment of fear. He climbed the narrow stairs, Sophia nestled in his arms. With each step, the light of the mansion seemed more promising. Arthur's mind worked quickly. He needed to take Sophia to a safe place, away from Veronica, before the confrontation. He thought of his sister, of a friend. The mansion was a battlefield. Sophia's safety was his compass. He would protect her with his life. Veronica, unable to contain her anxiety, decided to go after Arthur. She needed to know. Her footsteps echoed, amplified by panic. As she approached the West Wing, she heard a faint creak. It was the secret door closing. Her eyes widened. Arthur had found her. The game was over. Arthur, with Sophia in his arms, emerged from the corridor, his face marked by pain and determination. His eyes met Veronica's. There was no more love, only cutting coldness, an abyss of betrayal. Veronica stopped, her breath caught. The sight of Sophia, pale and frightened, nestled in Arthur's arms, was irrefutable proof. The truth had finally found its voice. The silence between them was more deafening than any scream. The final battle was about to begin. The silence between Arthur and Veronica was heavy, cut only by Sophia's ragged breathing, nestled in her father's arms. Arthur's eyes, once full of love, now reflected a cutting coldness, an abyss of betrayal opening between them. Veronica, paralyzed, felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. The sight of Sophia, pale and frightened, was irrefutable proof. The truth she had tried to bury, now exposed in all its cruelty. Her lips trembled, and a wave of icy panic invaded her. Arthur pressed Sophia against his chest, feeling his daughter's small body tremble. The smell of mold and despair still clung to her, but Arthur, with a fierce protective instinct, covered her with his own warmth. "Veronica," his voice was a dangerous whisper, "how could you do this? How could you be so cruel to our own daughter?" His eyes did not waver from hers, demanding an answer he knew she couldn't give. Veronica, however, was not a woman to surrender easily. Her cunning and calculating brain sought a desperate way out. "Arthur, please, it's not what it seems. Sophia is a child with a fertile imagination, you know. She must have hidden to play, and now she's scared. I was looking for her." She extended a trembling hand towards Sophia, a false gesture of concern that Arthur intercepted with a quick movement of his body, protecting his daughter. "Don't touch her," Arthur hissed, his voice laden with a contained rage that made Veronica take a step back. Sophia, sensing the tension, clung tighter to her father, burying her face in his neck. Veronica's lie was as transparent as it was cruel, and Arthur felt a profound nausea. The woman he had loved was a monster. At that exact moment, a soft sound of footsteps approached from the main corridor. Donna Clara, the mansion's longtime housekeeper, a woman with grey hair and kind eyes, appeared around the bend of the corridor with a basket of clean laundry in her arms. She stopped abruptly, her eyes wide at the sight. Arthur, with Sophia in his arms, his face contorted by pain and fury, and Veronica, pale and tense, in the middle of the West Wing corridor. "Mr. Arthur, Mrs. Veronica, what's happening?" asked Donna Clara, her voice choked with surprise and apprehension. The laundry basket slipped from her hands, falling to the floor with a dull thud, scattering silk and linen garments. Her eyes fixed on Sophia, who was huddled, trembling in her father's arms. The housekeeper, who had known Sophia since birth, felt a pang in her heart. Veronica, seeing the unexpected witness, tried one last card. "Donna Clara, good you came. Arthur is a little upset. He found Sophia playing hide-and-seek and is now making an unnecessary drama. The girl is fine, just a little scared." Her voice was forced but carried a tone of authority, but Arthur gave her no chance. "No, Donna Clara," he said, his voice now louder, laden with a pain he could no longer hide. "Sophia wasn't playing. Veronica kept her trapped, isolated in this secret basement, lying to me that she was traveling." He pointed to the crack in the wall, the almost imperceptible door. The truth, spoken aloud, echoed through the corridor, shocking the housekeeper. Donna Clara brought her hands to her mouth, her eyes welling up with tears as she looked at Sophia, then at Veronica, whose face was now completely disfigured by defeat and hatred. Luro the Parrot, who had silently flown to the office doorframe, watched the scene with his intelligent eyes. "Trapped! Sophia! Basement!" he shrieked, his words sharp and clear, confirming every syllable of Arthur's accusation. Luro's voice, the true hero, sealed Veronica's fate. The truth finally had found its voice for all to hear. Luro's piercing shriek reverberated through the corridor, an undeniable verdict that sealed Veronica's fate. The air grew dense with tension, and the housekeeper, Donna Clara, brought her hands to her chest, her eyes welling with disbelief and pity. She looked at Sophia, who still trembled in Arthur's arms, and then at Veronica, whose once haughty face now contorted into a mask of fury and despair. The lie, so carefully constructed, had spectacularly collapsed. Veronica, feeling cornered, took a step back, her eyes flashing. "This is absurd. A conspiracy. Arthur, are you going to believe this bird and this old woman instead of your own wife?" Her voice was a mixture of anger and panic, but there was no more conviction, only the fragility of an exposed soul. Arthur, however, did not listen to her. His eyes, fixed on Veronica, were an icy blue, devoid of any warmth that had once existed. "There's nothing more to say, Veronica. The truth is here, in our daughter's arms, and Luro." Luro was the only voice that dared to warn me. He held Sophia closer, feeling the warmth of her small body, a painful reminder of all the suffering she had endured. Donna Clara, recovering from the shock, approached Arthur, extending her hand to gently touch Sophia's shoulder. "My little Sophia, thank God you're all right. How horrible." Her eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head, dismayed by such cruelty. Arthur, with a nod, thanked the housekeeper for her silent support. He knew he needed to act quickly, not only to protect Sophia, but to ensure Veronica faced the consequences of her actions. "Donna Clara, please prepare a warm bath for Sophia and something light for her to eat. And call Dr. Almeida. She needs a doctor." His voice was firm, though pain still echoed in every syllable. Veronica, seeing the situation completely slip from her hands, made one last, desperate move. She tried to run, perhaps to the office, perhaps out of the mansion, but Arthur, anticipating her escape, stepped forward, blocking her path. "You're not going anywhere, Veronica, not until justice is served." The housekeeper, with a determined look, was already heading to the phone, her hurried footsteps echoing down the corridor. Luro, from the top of the doorframe, watched the scene with an unusual seriousness for a bird. He seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, the end of an era of deception, and the beginning of a new chance for Arthur and Sophia. Arthur carried Sophia to her room, a sanctuary of soft colors and toys, which now seemed a distant paradise from the dark basement. He laid her on the soft bed, and Sophia, exhausted, closed her eyes, but still held her father's hand tightly. The sight of his daughter safe, yet so fragile, rekindled the flame of his determination. While Donna Clara took care of Sophia and made the necessary calls, Arthur returned to the corridor. Veronica stood still, her shoulders slumped, her posture defeated. The mask of ambition and cruelty had fallen away, revealing an empty and hopeless woman. The police arrived minutes later, quickly and discreetly, preserving the family's dignity, even amidst such disgrace. Arthur watched as Veronica was led away, without resistance, her eyes avoiding his. There was no triumph in his gaze, only a deep sadness for the loss of what once was. The mansion door closed behind her, sealing a dark chapter. He returned to Sophia's room, sitting beside her. The girl slept, an restless but safe sleep. Arthur caressed her hair, feeling relief wash over his soul. Justice was beginning to be served, but the path to healing would be long. The most important thing was that Sophia was back, and he would do everything to rebuild her life, brick by brick, with love and dedication. Luro, the little guardian of truth, flew to the bedroom windowsill, watching the father and daughter. He had fulfilled his mission. Arthur caressed Sophia's hair, feeling its softness beneath his trembling fingers. The little girl slept, a restless sleep, punctuated by whispers and small spasms. Her pale face, once marked by fear, now seemed more relaxed, but the image of his daughter huddled in the basement would never leave his mind. Guilt was a heavy burden, a constant echo of "how could I not have seen?" He leaned in, kissing her forehead, a gesture of love and a silent promise that he would never again allow such suffering. Donna Clara entered the room minutes later, her steps soft. She carried a tray with chamomile tea for Arthur and water. Her tear-filled eyes met his with compassion. "Dr. Almeida is on his way," she whispered. "I've prepared a warm bath for Sophia and something light for her stomach." Arthur nodded, grateful for her efficient presence. She was a pillar of support. His eyes shifted to Luro on the windowsill, watching quietly. The parrot, guardian of the truth, seemed to understand that his work for now was done. Dr. Almeida arrived shortly after, a middle-aged man with a serious but welcoming expression. He examined Sophia delicately, his voice soft. Arthur watched every movement, looking for signs of alarm. The diagnosis was exhaustion and emotional shock, with no severe physical damage. "She will need a lot of affection and patience, Arthur," Dr. Almeida said, touching the magnate's shoulder. "The trauma is deep, but with your love, she will recover." The doctor's words were a balm and a reminder of the long journey ahead. Arthur felt a lump in his throat. He had failed to protect her, and now he needed to redouble his efforts to rebuild Sophia's trust and joy. He sat down again beside the bed, holding her small hand. Her skin was cold, but life pulsed there. Hours passed. The sun began to set, painting the sky in orange hues. Sophia slowly opened her eyes, blinking against the soft light of the bedside lamp. Her eyes met Arthur's, and for an instant fear returned, but Arthur smiled, a gentle smile full of love. "Daddy's here, my love. You're safe." He helped her sit up, offering her a glass of water. Sophia drank slowly, her eyes still fixed on him. "Where is she?" Sophia asked, her voice a whisper, fear still present. Arthur knew whom she referred to. "She's gone, Sophia. She won't hurt you anymore. You're home with Daddy." He hugged her again, a tight embrace, but full of tenderness. The girl took a while to relax, but the warmth of her father's embrace was a balm. Luro, as if sensing the moment, flew from the sill and landed softly on the headboard of the bed. "Sophia, safe," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Sophia looked at the parrot, and a small smile, the first in a long time, appeared on her lips. Arthur felt a pang of hope. The road would be long, but with love, patience, and the presence of the little hero, they would overcome. The family, though wounded, was beginning to heal. Sophia's small smile, fragile as a flower, was the most beautiful sight for Arthur. Her childlike eyes fixed on Luro, who, on the headboard of the bed, exuded protection. "Sophia, safe," the parrot repeated, this time with an almost human tenderness. The girl extended a hesitant little hand, and Luro tilted his head, allowing her to touch his soft feathers. It was a light touch, a silent bond that transcended the trauma. Arthur watched with a heavy heart, but with a pang of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. That bird was not just an animal. It was a guardian angel, a vital link in the fabric of his family. Donna Clara, discreet, returned to the room. "Sophia, my love, the bath is ready. A warm bath will do you good," she said with a sweet voice, extending her hand to the girl. Sophia looked at her father, seeking permission, and Arthur nodded, an encouraging smile. "Go with Donna Clara, my angel. Daddy will be here, waiting for you." The girl, still apprehensive, slid from the bed and followed the housekeeper, her steps slow and uncertain. Arthur watched her leave, feeling a mixture of relief and a persistent pain. Her image in the basement, huddled, was a scar on his soul. While Sophia was in the bath, Arthur sat in the armchair in the room, his head in his hands. The mansion, once a vibrant home, now echoed the heavy silence of his guilt. How could he have been so blind, so absorbed in work, so trusting of the woman he loved, to the point of not noticing his own daughter's suffering? The contained tears streamed down his face, hot and bitter. Luro, sensing his anguish, flew and landed on his shoulder, nuzzling his head. "Arthur, not sad," the parrot murmured. It was a simple, yet deeply meaningful comfort. When Sophia returned, wrapped in a soft, fragrant towel, her face looked rosier, her eyes less frightened. Donna Clara helped her put on clean, comfortable pajamas and then brought a bowl of carefully prepared vegetable soup. Sophia ate slowly, each spoonful a small step towards normalcy. Arthur sat beside her, telling gentle stories about the day, the garden, Luro, avoiding the nightmare. He wanted to fill the space with love and security, erasing the shadows of fear. Night fell, and Arthur remained by Sophia's bedside. She fell asleep again, this time with a more peaceful sleep, her small hand nestled in his. Arthur watched his daughter's gentle breathing, feeling the depth of his love. The healing journey would be long, he knew. There would be difficult days, moments of fear and painful memories, but he was there, unwavering, ready to face every challenge by her side. The family, though wounded, was uniting again, stronger and truer. Luro's presence, nestled on the perch beside the bed, was a constant reminder that the truth, however harsh, had been the first step towards freedom and the rebuilding of their lives. Arthur kissed Sophia's forehead once more, a silent promise of a future of love and security. Her laughter would once again echo through the mansion's corridors, and Veronica's shadow would be just a distant memory, a painful chapter they had together overcome. Each day would be a new beginning, a new chance to show Sophia how much she was loved and protected. The mansion, once a stage of deception, would now be a sanctuary of healing and affection, a home where paternal love would reign supreme, guided by the voice of truth that Luro had courageously revealed. Arthur remained by Sophia's side, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest. Night slipped into morning, bringing with it a soft light that filtered through the bedroom curtains. Sophia's sleep, though calmer, was still fragile, and Arthur felt every movement, every sigh. At dawn, the first rays of sun painted the room with golden hues, and Sophia slowly opened her eyes. There was no panic as before, just a momentary confusion before her eyes met Arthur's. A small, almost imperceptible smile curved her lips. "Good morning, my love," Arthur whispered, caressing her hair. "Did you sleep well?" Sophia nodded, gripping his hand more tightly. Luro, who had slept on his perch, awoke with a small chirp, observing the scene with his attentive eyes, like a faithful sentinel. Donna Clara brought breakfast to the room, light toast, fresh fruit, and a glass of warm milk for Sophia. The girl ate slowly, but without the reluctance of the previous night. Arthur sat beside her, telling stories about the birds that visited the garden and the flowers that bloomed. He spoke with a soft voice, filling the air with affection and normalcy, trying to ward off the lingering shadows. Sophia listened, her eyes following her father's movements, absorbing every word, every gesture of love. The connection between them, though shaken, was being patiently rebuilt, a bond of trust strengthening with each passing moment. After breakfast, Arthur suggested they go down to the living room, a place Sophia loved. The girl hesitated for a moment, her eyes seeking Luro's reassurance. The parrot, as if understanding, flew from its perch and landed on Arthur's shoulder. "Sophia, Daddy," he murmured, and the girl, with a small nod, accepted. Arthur picked her up, feeling the familiar weight of her body, and slowly descended the stairs. The mansion, once a stage of secrets and betrayals, now seemed to breathe an air of renewal, though Veronica's absence was a heavy, yet necessary, silence. In the living room, Arthur placed Sophia on the soft sofa, surrounding her with cushions. He picked up one of her favorite fairy tale books and began to read, his deep, comforting voice filling the space. Luro, on Arthur's shoulder, occasionally let out a soft chirp, as if participating in the reading, an attentive companion. Sophia nestled, closed her eyes, absorbing the story and her father's protective presence. It was a small but significant step on the long journey of healing. Arthur felt immense gratitude for every moment, for every fragile smile from his daughter. He knew that time would be the greatest healer, and he was determined to give Sophia all the time and love in the world without reservation. The days that followed were dedicated entirely to Sophia. Arthur cancelled all his commitments, delegating responsibilities and focusing solely on his daughter. They spent hours in the garden where Sophia, with Arthur's help, planted small seeds and watched the butterflies. Luro always accompanied them, flying among the flowers, a winged guardian of their new peace. Gradually, Sophia's laughter began to return, timid at first, then more unrestrained, echoing through the mansion's corridors like a long-forgotten melody. Arthur felt his heart fill with a joy he thought he had lost forever. Donna Clara's presence, with her wisdom and affection, was a balm for both of them. She prepared Sophia's favorite dishes and told stories from her childhood, distracting the girl and allowing Arthur to breathe. The mansion, once a place of luxury and solitude, was transforming into a true home, a refuge of love and hope. Arthur knew that Sophia's recovery would be a continuous process with ups and downs. But he was ready. He was there, body and soul, for every step, every tear, every smile. The unconditional love he felt for his daughter was the driving force that would guide them. The family, now more united than ever, was ready to rewrite its story, one chapter at a time, with the certainty that love always prevails. The family, now more united than ever, was ready to rewrite its story, one chapter at a time, with the certainty that love always prevails. The weeks that followed were a silent testament to that promise. The mansion, once a labyrinth of secrets and sorrows, transformed into a refuge of laughter and affection. Sophia, with Arthur's unwavering patience and Donna Clara's tender care, blossomed again. Her cheeks regained their rosy color. Her eyes, once frightened, sparkled with the childlike curiosity that was natural to her. She still had her moments of quietness, her night terrors, but each day, light conquered shadow. Arthur watched every small step forward with an overflowing heart. He had rediscovered the joy of being a father, of being present, of every smile and every tight hug from Sophia. His work, once his top priority, was now merely a means to sustain the sanctuary he had built for his daughter. Luro, the parrot, remained a silent and essential member of the family. He no longer shrieked the distressing phrases of before, but his words were now of comfort and affection. Sophia, Daddy, love. He repeated softly, like a healing mantra. On a sunny afternoon, Arthur and Sophia were in the garden, one of the girl's favorite places. She ran barefoot across the grass, chasing colorful butterflies that danced in the air. Luro flew happily above her, doing pirouettes and chirping with contentment. Sophia stopped near a rosebed, her eyes shining as she saw a ladybug. She crouched down, extending her tiny hand delicately, and the ladybug crawled onto her palm. A crystalline laugh, full and unreserved, echoed through the garden. It was the laughter Arthur had so longed for, the sound of his daughter's soul finally free. Arthur, watching from afar, felt a wave of emotion so strong he could barely breathe. Tears streamed down his face, but this time they were tears of pure joy and gratitude. The image of Sophia, radiant and carefree, was living proof that they had won. He approached, kneeling beside her, and Sophia, with the ladybug still in her hand, jumped into his arms, hugging him tightly. "Daddy, look! She came to me!" she exclaimed, her face pressed against his. In that moment, Arthur knew it was time for a new beginning, a gesture that would seal the victory of love and truth. He decided to organize a small, intimate gathering at the mansion, not to celebrate luxury, but to honor Sophia's resilience, Donna Clara's unconditional love, and above all, Luro's courage. It would be a simple dinner, with the few people who had witnessed and supported their journey. Donna Clara, Dr. Almeida, and one or two trusted friends who had remained by his side. On the day of the dinner, the living room was decorated with garden flowers, and the atmosphere was one of warmth and hope. Sophia, wearing a light blue dress, looked like a little princess. Luro was on his special perch in the center of the room, observing everyone with his peculiar intelligence. Arthur, with Sophia in his arms, raised a glass of juice for his daughter and a glass of water for himself. His eyes swept over the friendly faces, pausing on Luro. "Friends," Arthur began, his voice choked with emotion, "tonight is not about the past, but about the future. It's about Sophia's courage, Donna Clara's support, Dr. Almeida's wisdom, and the truth that found its voice through our little hero, Luro." He looked at the parrot, who tilted its head, as if understanding. Luro showed us that love and truth always prevail, even in the deepest shadows. Arthur kissed Sophia's forehead, who smiled at Luro. "This is our new story, a chapter of love, forgiveness, and new beginnings." The little parrot, as if on cue, let out a soft chirp, and to everyone's surprise said, "Love, always, Sophia." The sound of its voice, laden with meaning, echoed in the room, sealing the moment of a new and glorious dawn for the family. Laura's voice, so laden with meaning, resonated in the room, filling every corner with a melody of hope. Arthur felt a warmth spread through his chest, a profound relief that made him hug Sophia even tighter. The girl, with a radiant smile, caressed the soft feathers of the parrot, which nestled on her shoulder. Donna Clara, with tear-filled eyes, smiled at Dr. Almeida, who nodded with an expression of satisfaction. That simple dinner had become a milestone, not just a celebration, but a rite of passage to a brighter future. In the days that followed, the mansion pulsed with renewed energy. Sophia, with the security of having her father by her side and Laura's constant presence, recovered by leaps and bounds. Her nightmares diminished, and her laughter, once a whisper, now echoed through the corridors, a sweet melody Arthur never tired of hearing. They spent hours in the garden, where Sophia, with Arthur's help, tended to the flowers and watched the birds. Laura, her faithful companion, flew freely, occasionally landing on the girl's head, eliciting peals of laughter from her. Arthur had transformed. The magnate, once absorbed in his business, was now a present, dedicated, and loving father. He read to Sophia, played hide-and-seek, and even ventured to cook with Donna Clara to his daughter's amusement. The guilt that tormented him diminished with each of Sophia's smiles, replaced by immense gratitude for having had a second chance. He knew that Sophia's emotional scars would take time to heal completely, but he was determined to be her safe harbor, her guide, and her greatest protector. Donna Clara, in turn, continued to be the soul of the house. Her wise advice and unconditional affection were a balm for Arthur and Sophia. She prepared the girls' favorite dishes, told bedtime stories, and, with her serene presence, brought a sense of normalcy and warmth. The connection between her and Sophia had deepened, becoming a grandmother-granddaughter bond, full of affection and understanding. Luro, the little hero, had become the official family mascot, a constant reminder that the truth, however difficult, would always find its way. His phrases were now of joy and affection, a constant echo of Sophia, Daddy, love. He was more than a pet. He was a family member, a winged guardian who had saved Sophia and reunited father and daughter. The mansion, once a stage of luxury and solitude, was now a true home, warmed by love and unity. The rooms, once grand and empty, were filled with life, laughter, and a peace that seemed to have been restored. The shadows of the past, the bitter memories of Veronica's cruelty, began to dissipate. Replaced by the light of a new beginning, Arthur knew that life wouldn't be perfect, that challenges would arise. But he was no longer alone. He had Sophia, his precious daughter, and a family rebuilt on the solid foundations of love, truth, and resilience. He looked at Sophia, who now slept serenely in her bed, Luro nestled on the perch beside her. A future of hope was unfolding, a future where paternal love, guided by the courage of a small bird, would reign supreme. Justice had been served, and healing was well underway, promising days of peace and happiness. The family, finally complete in its new purpose, was ready to embrace each new dawn, a living testament to the transformative power of love and unity. The family, finally complete in its new purpose, was ready to embrace each new dawn, a living testament to the transformative power of love and unity. Days unfolded into weeks, and weeks into months, weaving a new tapestry of life in the mansion once marked by pain. Sophia blossomed like the most beautiful of flowers in the garden she loved so much. Her laughter, now full and unshadowed, filled the halls, echoing the joy Arthur thought he had lost forever. She ran freely, her small bare feet on the grass, her eyes sparkling with the curiosity and innocence that had been stolen from her. Arthur, in turn, had rediscovered himself. The urgency of his business gave way to an unwavering priority, Sophia. He was a present father, a tireless storyteller, a playmate in the garden. Every smile from his daughter was a balm for the wounds of his soul, a confirmation that he had made the right choice, that love was, in fact, the greatest wealth. The guilt that haunted him transformed into an iron determination to protect Sophia and to build for her a future filled with security and affection. Luro, the little green-feathered hero, continued to be the family's winged guardian. His words, once a distressing warning, were now a chorus of affection. "Sophia, Daddy, love," he repeated, landing on Arthur's shoulder or the girl's head, as a constant reminder of the truth he had unveiled. He was more than a pet. He was a living link to courage, loyalty, and the capacity for overcoming adversity. Donna Clara remained the silent and loving pillar of the house. With her wisdom and affection, she cared for Sophia with a grandmother's devotion, preparing her favorite foods and listening to her stories with infinite patience. Her presence brought a sense of home, warmth and stability that was fundamental for the girl's recovery and Arthur's peace of mind. The mansion, once a stage of luxury and solitude, had transformed into a true sanctuary of affection, where every room breathed the new life that had settled there. On a bright spring morning, Arthur and Sophia sat on the garden bench, watching Luro fly in circles above them. Sophia held a fairy tale book, and Arthur read in a low, deep and gentle voice. The girl, nestled beside him, rested her head on his shoulder, a gesture of trust and love that warmed her father's heart. She no longer had nightmares, and the shadows of the past had, for the most part, dissipated, replaced by the light of a secure present and a promising future. Arthur closed the book, kissing the top of Sophia's head. "Are you happy, my love?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. Sophia looked up, her lips curved in a radiant smile, the purest and most sincere he had ever seen. "Very happy. Daddy, with you, with Donna Clara, and with Luro." The parrot, as if hearing, landed softly on Sophia's lap. "Love. Always." "Sophia," he squawked, and the girl hugged him with tenderness. Arthur looked at the blue sky, feeling immense gratitude. The journey had been arduous, marked by pain and betrayal, but truth had prevailed, and love had healed. He knew that life, with its complexities, would always bring new challenges, but now he was ready. He had Sophia, his precious daughter, and a family rebuilt on the solid foundations of resilience, forgiveness, and human connection. The story of Arthur and Sophia, guided by the courage of a small parrot, was an inspiring testament that even in the deepest shadows, the light of love always finds a way to shine. They had found peace, and the mansion now was truly a home. Months turned into years. Arthur's mansion, once a stage of luxury and secrets, was now a sanctuary of love and laughter. Sophia, older, with vibrant hair and eyes, personified joy. The scars of the past, though present, did not dictate her days. She ran through the garden, her laughter echoing, planted flowers with Donna Clara, and read to Luro, who listened intently. Arthur found a peace that money could never buy. His businesses prospered with a new perspective. True wealth lay in the moments spent with his daughter. Each morning he took her to school, and each night he read to her. Guilt was replaced by gratitude and a fierce determination to be the father Sophia deserved, her safe harbor. Luro, the green-feathered parrot, remained the soul of the house, the link to truth. His phrases were now elaborate, full of affection and wisdom. Sophia, Daddy, love, family, he repeated at the right moment. He flew freely, landing on Arthur's shoulders or Sophia's head, a constant reminder that the unexpected voice of truth would always find the light. Donna Clara, with silver hair and a gentle gaze, was the grandmother Sophia needed. Her presence was an embrace, a balm for both sorrows and joys. She taught Sophia to cook, tend the garden and sew, imparting values of patience and resilience. The connection between them was deep, a bond of love that filled the home. On an autumn afternoon with leaves dancing, Arthur and Sophia were in the garden sitting under the oak tree. Sophia drew, and Arthur watched her, a smile on his face. Luro was perched on a branch. "Daddy," Sophia said, looking up, "do you think Mommy is okay?" The question, though expected, still carried an echo of pain. Arthur knelt, holding Sophia's hands. "I hope so, my love. People make mistakes, and Mommy made a mistake, but justice was served, and now she has a chance to learn and perhaps, one day, find her peace too." He caressed his daughter's face. "The important thing is that we are well. We have each other, and a lot of love." Sophia nodded, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. She knew that the past was part of her story, but it did not define her. What defined her was her father's love, Donna Clara's affection, and Luro's loyalty. Arthur hugged her tightly, feeling her warmth. He had learned that life was unpredictable, but true love was the anchor. The mansion, with its ancient walls and recent history, had become a symbol of overcoming adversity, a testament that family, truth, and human connection were the pillars of a fulfilling existence. Luro, as if to seal the moment, flew from the branch and landed on Arthur's shoulder, nuzzling his head. "Love, always. Family," he whispered, and Sophia laughed, a sweet and melodic sound that filled the air. Arthur smiled, happy. They had rewritten their story, not with the end of a chapter, but with the promise of days of light, hope, and love. The journey of healing transformed into life, each new dawn celebrating the family, guided by the bird's courage and the strength of love. The mansion now was a legacy. Hidden truth finds its voice, tested love its way home.